Hello, everyone. This is Prashant, and I'll be your host for the ChoubeySahab podcast. And today we have Aamna Khan with us. She's the co founder at Binks, the easiest way for Indian women to get tailored clothes online. Amna, we're so glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Great. So now we have to do a quick sponsor plug. And since I don't have any sponsors, I'm going to just go ahead with a 5-second silence for our sponsors. Please join me in this.
Yeah, sure.
We're done. To start things off, I would like you to share your personal story with us. How did you start your journey? Where did you start your journey? And what you're doing today? Tell us the story.
Sure. So I am from Bombay. I grew up in Bombay. Was above average student in college, in school. So decided to sort of graduate in science. Took up a BSc in information technology. Um, Thankfully, I did that in a college that was known for its humanities courses. Which meant that all of my friends, like my closest friends today, are like they're from sociology, anthropology. Some of them have got into academia, and in hindsight, I realized what a rich experience that was. So I'm really, really happy about that. By the end of college, I wasn't really very sure about what I wanted to do. I had graduated in IT, but I did not want to get into like development. Um, and I was there was this company that had come on campus for placement, so I got I landed a marketing gig there and was happy to sort of get a job, quite honestly. And this was Coupon Dunya, which is a affiliate marketing company, essentially helps e-commerce companies grow. I did a bunch of different things there. I did sales, marketing. I also was an executive assistant to the CEO for a year, which is an interesting sort of experience. Gave me a sense of all of the different departments, their functions, and by the end of those 2 years, I think I had a couple of realizations. Right, one was that I think throughout college and for the first 2 years of work, I thought that if you have to be really good at something, you have to become a specialist, and then just zero down and become like a genius, right? And I always sort of admired people who were really, really good at what they did, and I, on the other hand, could do like a number of different things, and I enjoyed doing all of them. I my reading interests were very varied, and for a very long time I thought that was a bad thing. Right, I was just like, no, I should probably like figure out what my focus is and I should just focus on that. But at the end of these first 2 years of work, I realized that I am a journalist, right, and I really like being a journalist. And there are actually roles, right, that completely are perfect for me in that sense. Right, and I also had a couple of friends at Kubundunya who encouraged me to sort of get into product. They thought that this would be a good fit for me, and that's how the switch to product management really happened. So I'm completely self-taught in that sense. I wish there were like all of these cohort-based courses 5 6 years ago, but back then we were just reading everything that a number of these bloggers were putting out, and just reading whatever I could find, right? And so that's how my journey got started. Have only worked in startups all my career. So after Coupon Dunya, I was with Localoy, which is a hyperlocal services startup. Again, built for like end users. So I was looking at the user facing app. This was a competitor to Urban Company, right? So that sort of a experience. Um, Post which I worked at Simple, which is a buy now pay later company. That's where I met my co-founder, my current co-founder Raj. So I just actually realized just before our call that we've been working together for nearly 6 years now, which honestly doesn't feel like 6 years, which is interesting. So so yeah, I mean that's what I've been doing so far. Post Simple, I decided to take a break, figure out what I wanted to do next, and that's how things happened.
Great. So, like you just mentioned, that you were a product manager before you became the CEO of this company. And there are a lot of people who want to break into PM and become a product manager, but there is no clear way to do that. There is no clear written down syllabus that okay, do this, 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 and you become a product manager, and you self learned your way to it. So, if you could give some advice for professionals who want to break into product management, what should they be doing? What's a good way to break into product management? If you could share your advice.
So, I mean, I don't think there is like one template that everybody could follow. The way I sort of, the things that I learned specifically about product management were completely dependent on the kind of user that I was solving for, whether I was working at like a B2B versus a B2B startup, um, B2B versus a B2C startup, and also like what was the size of the organization, right? So I think if you're starting out and you want to figure out what exactly that you want to do, because even in product management there are many different types of product management, right? Some require you to be more technical, some require you to be more business oriented, and you need to figure out what is it that you enjoy doing, right? So I would recommend, maybe join an early team, which is what I did, and took it from like 0 to 1, and then some, and then decided that okay, I wanted to start up. But I think that's sort of the best way to discover what aspects of product management you really like, because there's working with designers, there's working with developers, right? There's just product strategy, right? That as you sort of go up in the organization, you will have to increasingly do. And usually, I think there is this notion where like when you go up in the organization, you become a manager, whereas I feel there is a lot of scope for ICs as well within product, who can just sort of run independent projects with along with a bunch of other people, and that is again like a choice that you have to make, right? And you also have to work in an organization that respects you for being an IC and treats you the same as a peer, right? And you get paid the same and all of that. So yeah, I think my sort of general advice would be join an early startup. Um, just do what you have to do, because that's essentially what you'll be doing every day in a product role. Just figuring out whatever that needs to be done, and learning how to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like great advice. So join a startup and learn how things are happening there. And since there is a lot of ambiguity in a startup environment, you'll get to learn a lot from that, how to find your way through. And that will be really helpful. Okay, now getting to Binks, this company that you founded, what's the origin story of it? How did Binks get started? What did you do in the very initial days to get this off the ground? And how did you validate the problem? Walk us through it.
Sure. So this is 2017, right? Early 2017. I was still working at Simple as a PM, and it's my like one of my closest college friends' wedding. We've all decided to wear a sari, so I need to now get a blouse tailored. After a lot of searching on Google and asking friends and recommendations, I find this one local boutique that I go to, and then I have the worst experience possible, right? So right from when I entered, I had to wait half an hour because she was busy with another customer. I couldn't book an appointment in advance, which was very something that should totally be possible but wasn't the case. My order was delayed, it did not fit me, like just name the problem, like all of those things went wrong, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Got my like final sari blouse about 12 hours before my flight, and the whole experience costed me quite a bit, right? Like it was expensive by all respects, and I was just left wondering that why is this experience the way it is, right? And it also was very very reminiscent of what it was like going to the tailor when we were children. So growing up in Bombay, we had a local tailor that we went to for 10 years, for 10 years, right? But he hated his guts because he would never deliver on time, right? But we kept going back to him because out of like all of the tailors in the locality, he was the one who could get the fit right, right? And so we were like, you know what? Okay, he takes 2 months, and he never delivers on time, and he keeps saying next week, next week. But at least when he delivers, it fits. So let's just go back to him, right? And so this was very curious because a lot of other experiences in our everyday life had improved in terms of like customer service efficiency, but tailoring seemed to be something that was stuck in time, right? So my very first idea was, honestly, to build SaaS for tailors, where they could use that to do a better job of servicing their customers. So I wrote that down in like an idea notebook, forgot about it. Right, end of 2018 I quit, and I have this like idea notebook with 10, 12 ideas, and I'm going through them, trying to figure out, okay, what is viable. I honestly started with the idea of just building like a small product, right, that I could sell on subscription or something like that. Very indie hacker sort of approach. But as soon as I started talking to tailors to try and understand whether there was a need for something like this product, I realized that they actually did not see all of these customer complaints as problems. They saw the customer as the problem, right? And what that means is that they had this attitude, and they do, a lot of them have this attitude where they say that no matter what we do, the customer is always going to come back with some problem or the other. And some of this is also related to the very painful customer service that SMEs have to deal with in India. And another aspect of it is the fact that in the tailoring market in general, like in the local tailoring market, there is a very interesting demand supply skew, where the demand is always more than the supply available, even in like a locality which has many many tailors, which means that the consequences of screwing up an order are not very high, right? So if you lose one customer, you will gain another. Or if you're at least delivering like a good fit, at the end of the day, the customer, this a customer is just like really irritated and frustrated now, will likely come back again 2 months later, because you at least give them a good fit, right? So because of these things, we realize that even if we were able to build a service, right, that could help tailors do a better job, they would eventually churn, right? Because we were not really, they didn't think of this as a problem at all. They were getting customers, they were getting repeat customers, not a problem. So then I turned to like the customers, right? And I was just like, okay, if this experience is so painful and it's not changing, then why are you still going to tailors, right? And because there's just so much variety available, right, in Bangalore, like which brand, name which brand, like which international brand, you have like everything available. And I surveyed about 400 women. I had recently read The Mom Test, which I think influenced our origins to a great degree. It's one of my favorite books. It's a short book, very, very tactical though. So you can, just like, I can finish it in a day, but it will impact like everything, all sorts of user research that you do afterwards, right? And surveys for 400 women, and realized that um, about 80% of them were buying one size up in ready-made clothing and then going to the local tailor and getting it altered. Right. So I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of shops that sell ready-made clothing in India also have a tailor on site, right, who's making like last minute adjustments and stuff like that. Um, and the second, one, they were upset with how standard sizing was in general, right? They always had to go one size up and then alter it. And the second was the fact that certain types of Indian clothing has to be tailored, right? So sari blouses, like our saris come with a extra 1 meter cloth, which for the express purpose of being turned into a blouse. And the third, which was an interesting sort of anecdote, was that a lot of women really like the process of creating something that is like truly theirs, right? So some of the language that they would use was that this, like, nobody else in the world has this, like it's very unique, right? I really like buying fabrics, like these were the sort of things. And so that was sort of the insight. We were like, okay, there is a problem with like sizing in apparel for women. Ready-made sizes are not really solving for it. Tailors can solve for it, but the experience is very broken. So like, let's fill that gap, right? So that has been pretty much what we've been solving for the last 2 years. Year one, we found like 4 different ways that problem cannot be solved. Year two when we double down on what we do today, so which is essentially an online tailoring service for women where they can place an order online to get something tailored. We'll have their fabric picked up, post which they get on a video call like this one, where they talk to a designer who sort of gives them this very boutique like experience, helps them figure out what it is that they should make from this fabric, what will look good in them, what will flatter their bodies, etc. And post which it gets manufactured, stitched at our workshop, and then shipped to the customer. Right, so we make the entire process extremely simple. The customer doesn't have to step out at all, right, to get this done. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty great, and that's a problem I know exists because I've seen my mother going to and fro from the tailor shop, going there, coming back. That okay, not today. She'll give me tomorrow, and then it's a pretty exhausting experience. And glad that someone is solving for that. Also, I've heard the story that how in the initial days you set up a stall in some apartments or something to get direct user feedback one to one. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, so when we started off, we did not want to just run Facebook ads, which was sort of the general wisdom that you get feedback from based on ads, and then you take a call. But because the kind of thing, like our very first model was a made-to-measure marketplace, so it wasn't what we do today. It was fairly different, and that concept was a very sort of new concept, and we didn't want to just run ads and measure the impact in like views and clicks and time spent on page, etc. We just decided to set up these little stalls inside apartment complexes and office tech parks, because that is where we thought our sort of customer was living, right. So that was also a way of validating that, okay, where are my customers, right. So we started with that. We must have done, I think, maybe 30, 40 of those, right across like the first 3 months. And I think best decision ever, in hindsight. Like back then it was very, very painful because like kudos to people who do these exhibitions every weekend, right. It can be a very, very exhausting experience, just in terms of like setting up stalls and like taking them down, and you have to do like the same thing all over again the next day. It will start raining, and like your inventory is all wet, and all those sorts of like impossible issues. And but what it helped us understand was some key things around user behavior, how they thought about made to measure versus ready made versus tailored clothing, and also got us our first few hundred customers, which we all sort of had met personally and had gotten a lot of feedback from them. So yeah, that was one of our original acquisition strategies.
Great. And it is so important to, in the initial days, get your hands dirty and go out there and talk to people. And that is something that a lot of people miss out on, that they make a beautiful product that seems perfect to them. But when it goes out to the market, it just doesn't work, right? So it's so important to just, and like you just went out there, put up these stalls, and just directly interacted with your potential customers, how they feel about it. Great. Also, you are someone who has been in both roles. You have been a product manager, and then now you are CEO of a company, right? And it is being said that a product manager is much like a mini CEO. So, do you believe in that statement because you've been on both sides of the story?
I mean, if you ask me, I'll say that you know when you're a CEO, you just miss being a product manager, because that's how I feel. Because they're just like so many other things that you need to do. So I still end up thinking quite a bit about how the product should be and what UX improvements we can make, right, and what are some sort of growth features we need to add and all of that. But the everyday sort of tasks of a PM, right, I really miss those. So it's not it's I think certain skills that you learn in product management definitely help, because a PM, it's like really good if a PM is a generalist, and the same thing applies to being a CEO, because you're essentially doing all sorts of things that you haven't done before, and you sort of have to get approach it with first principles. So it helps that way. But if you're a PM going like from PM from to like being a CEO, like be advised, you will likely not get to do a lot of product management. So yeah.
Exactly. Also, from an outside perspective, I've not been in either of those roles,
Mhm,
but I feel that being a CEO has so many more responsibility than being a PM. PM is only dealing with the product,
mhm,
but as a CEO, you're also dealing with financing the company and then taking care of the capital and the product and interacting with the users, customer success. Basically, you're in all roles,
mhm.
right? You're not just in one role. Product management is one role. Okay, you're taking care of the product,
Yeah,
and that can be the main product as well. That can be the core business of the company.
right.
Absolutely true. But that is not what business is all about.
Mhm.
Business is about so many other
Yeah,
things, right?
yeah,
Like hiring it, and hiring itself can be a big task in itself, and a founder or a CEO
yeah,
has to take care of all of these things.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, so
so do you think this? Yeah,
yeah, I
go
think
ahead.
absolutely right. So one thing that YC, we went through YC in summer 19, and one thing that the partners say often there, and you'll also find it in a lot of the material that's available online, is that the founder has two jobs: hiring and fundraising, and it does increasingly feel that way. But yeah, I still hope I can find some time to do some product, but let's see how that goes.
Great. Also, you're someone who has gone through YC, who's been fortunate enough to go through YC, and these days there is a Twitter rage going on whether YC is worth it or not worth it. Being someone who has been on the other side, you've been in YC.
Mhm,
What's your opinion on it? Do you think it is worth it for founders to give up that much equity, and how has it helped you?
mhm. So I think when you're that early, right, the whole equity thing doesn't quite matter. And second, is that don't see anybody who's been through YC say that it's not worth it to go through YC. I'm yet to sort of see that, and that is because I think, I mean, this is again my personal experience, but I would completely do YC all over again, right? So it gives us access to a sort of network, an experience, right, that building here out of India, right, Bangalore, I would not have been able to get, right. And they also believed in us very, very early, when the only clarity that we had was on the problem, right, and solution was really just up in the air, right. It wasn't until like 15, 16 months ago when we really figured out, okay, what direction should we build in, like where does the solution need to be. So in that sense, I mean, I would say, do your research, talk to people, and in fact, somebody, I was reading this somewhere, and somebody said, I think the right question is like, when do you do YC? Right. So it also depends. So if, let's say, you're a seasoned founder, right, and capital is no sort of worry, and then it probably does not make that much sense to give up that much of your company for a small amount, perhaps, right. Maybe in some cases it does, because I know founders who've like repeated with YC as well, right. So they did YC a long time ago, and then when they did the second company, they again went through YC, right. So I think you should just evaluate it that way. But I personally find the whole discussion, it does not make a lot of sense to me. I don't agree with it. So yeah,
Absolutely, and you added a great perspective on it by saying that it matters on what stage or what's your context,
yeah,
and that matters a lot because if you're a seasoned founder and capital is not really a problem,
mhm,
then probably you should don't need to go to IC because you already have what they have to
yeah,
offer. But if you are someone starting a new business in the early stages, then YC has a lot of help to offer, and
yeah,
you should definitely consider
yeah,
it. Right?
yeah.
Great. Also, coming to the big question. Where is the Binks investor memo? Where have you been hiding it?
Yeah, at this point, it has been a Twitter trend. It has been a meme, and I'm now just waiting for it
Yeah,
to turn into like a conspiracy theory where somebody is just like, there is no memo. Like, everybody's just been raging about nothing. But I mean, to answer your question, it does exist. Just FYI, everybody,
yeah.
there is a memo. I
Okay.
will likely make it public soon. Right. So I just need to gotten some feedback on it. I will probably like, I think, cut it down into like a couple of blog posts and post it like maybe in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, likely. So yeah, I mean, I will post on Twitter, so like you'll know when it's out there.
Absolutely. Like the FOMO for the mere mortals like me is going through the roof. Okay. But I'm not going to force you to show it anyway because that's onto you. But still, we are going to talk about it, right? I'm going to try to extract as much as I can
Mhm.
about that memo without you showing the memo. Okay.
Hmm.
So, first thing is like, what is different about it? What's so exciting about it that's not there in memos or decks in general?
So, I mean, honestly, I think that is something other people who see a lot of decks and memos can answer better, right? So, I don't know what makes it stand out, except that I know for a fact it's very, very long. I think it's over like 5,000 words or something. And honestly, had I written it for investors, it would probably not have been that long. The original version was, I wrote it for myself because we were at that sort of point where, we had figured out some aspects of the solution. And now the question that we had to ask ourselves was, okay, what does this mean, right? Where can this go? How do we sort of see this evolving? So before I can sell it to employees or investors, right, I need to sort of sell it to myself, right, or at least like figure out what do I need to sell, what is it that we're building in the long term, right, in the 5, 10, 20 year horizon. And that's what I spent time on. So originally it was just for myself, and I sent it to a couple of people who whose advice and insight I respect. Got their feedback on it, had a lot of debate, right, with Raj and with a couple of these other people. And then I had like one version of it. Then I edited it a little bit to make it work for potential employees. So if let's say you were interested in joining Binks and want to understand, okay, what is it like, you are you just a tailor, what is it, what are you doing, who is your customer, etc. Right, that document can sort of help you get that understanding. So and then finally I edited it some more to make it work for investors. We also have like a pitch deck which is shorter and crisper and the standard sort of pitch deck thing, but the memo is far more nuanced. It's longer, like I said, which means that most people don't read it, right? And which is fine, right? Because the ones who do kind of stand out from everybody else, so that's great. So yeah, I mean, I think that was sort of the approach. Wasn't really written for investors. It just worked out that way.
Great. So basically, it's a document that you wrote not just for the investment purposes, but also for hiring purposes. Because as a startup, you have to pitch two ways. You have to pitch to potential investors who can bring you money,
Yeah,
and you also have to pitch to talent. Great talent will only come to you when they're convinced that you're doing some good work, right?
yeah,
So it's a combined pitch memo that you've written. It's not just an investor memo,
yeah.
but a memo just tells a lot about Bix, right?
Yeah, so actually, the way I think about it is that all potential employees are also investors in the company, right? So I feel that a lot more needs to be done in terms of really pitching yourself as a company, especially when you're early and like you're not, FANG or anything like that, where you're already established and everybody wants to work for you. I have to make a good pitch, right, as to why somebody should leave what they're doing or come work for me, right, and come sort of help us build this thing that we're building. And which is why we our offer letter is also a pitch deck, where we sort of explain how ESOPs work, like if what is the value of ESOPs, how do you look at it, how can they grow, that they can also like depreciate, you have to understand that, because what I realized was a lot of people did not really look these things up when we were hiring early on. And we realized that, okay, we need to sort of formalize it. Karta has a very good, it was essentially completely inspired from Karta, so I have to give credit where it's due. Karta has a sort of another pitch deck offer letter, sort of a template that you can use, and I would highly recommend founders to look at it that way, right? So let's pitch our potential employees is how I think about it.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. Because in the current talent market, it's probably harder to get your hands onto good talent than it is to get your hands onto investment, right? So love that you're doing this. Also, this is great that I get the mindset with which you created the memo and why it has come out so good. but what's in it? Like, tell us about the contents of it, right?
Yeah.
Uh, what are the different categories that you've catered to?
Right.
What are the numbers that you're showing? Give us an insight into that.
Sure. So to break it down, basically starts with the problem, and the problem are standard sizes in apparel in general, and in fact, actually, right off the bat, we talk about some of our like core beliefs that uh, highly influence all of our decision making slash product strategy, right? And what one sort of feedback that I'd been getting, implicit feedback, that when I was talking to investors like early 2021, was that a lot of them I realized were just not realizing what the problem was and how big the problem was, right? And I think they saw it from like a narrow perspective of uh, you know who tailors clothes, etc., as opposed to why do people tailor clothes still, right? And so I have sort of expounded on the problem quite a bit. I think about half the memo is just the problem, and what are its existing solutions, why they don't make sense, right? Why hasn't it been solved so far, right? And I also, once I edited it for like Western investors, I added a lot of context with respect to what is tailoring, because it's something. So in the US, if you say tailoring, it means alteration. So when they say I'm tailoring my jeans, it means I'm just going to shorten the length of my jeans, right? So if I just say that, oh, we do tailoring, that's just not going to make any sense, or worse, it'll give the wrong idea. So there are videos of there are a bunch of these YouTube videos where women are sort of going through the entire process of recreating like a very expensive Manish Malhotra dress or something like that, right? And that's something that's extremely common in India for women to find similar fabric because it's so easy to do. But that is a concept that's completely alien to Western investors, right? And also had to sort of because all of the tailoring shops are offline, right? And I wanted to get sort of hard evidence in terms of like what problems customers have, right? So we also mined a lot of online reviews that we could find of offline tailors, sort of read all of them, figured out what are sort of the key points, what are the common threads that customers are complaining about, etc. So the first half is really just that. Then we sort of get into how we're solving for it, what will it take, right, where we're at. Numbers are honestly a very small section of it as compared to everything else. And the second half goes in a little more detail about what our solution is, how we're planning to sort of take this forward, what is the future vision, like where do we see this going, right? So that's sort of the structure, if that answers your question.
Thank you. It does. For the first time, I believe that you've shared the insights of what's going on in there, right? Great, and I totally get why what the hype is really about, because someone taking so much time to actually research the problem they are solving and then writing half the memo about it, which is itself a big memo, just tells a lot, like what's the passion of the entrepreneur who's trying to solve the problem. And as an investor, I would just read the first half and I'd just directly invest. I would not go to the second half, because that just conveys your motivation and how much you want to solve this problem, because you've done so much work researching the problem.
Yeah, you should
Brilliant
definitely
stuff.
definitely become an investor as soon as you can. Yeah.
As soon as I get the money, I'm going to contact you.
No, not just for us, like in
Oh,
general. Like that's a good investor. So yeah.
okay, what makes you say that? Now I'm going to dig deep. What makes you say that I can be an
No,
investor?
no, I mean what you said about like if somebody understands the problem that well, uh, and so on
Yeah,
and so forth. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a good way of looking at it, in my opinion.
Absolutely, exactly. So now I'm really impressed by how you set this up. This entire memo thing and what the hype is about is totally justified. Now, my next question is somewhat related. Looking at the amount of thought that you've put into just building this memo, I'm sure that you must have put the same amount of thought into building your company, right? Or probably more, because building a company is a hectic task. There are so many things moving around, so many moving parts, and it's so important to set up some systems and processes so that everything is under control and everything keeps moving smoothly. and especially it being a tailoring business when you have to give deadlines that okay by this date you will get it, and all of those things are involved. So can you give us some insights into what are the systems and processes? What do they look like at Binks?
So we're still a small team, right? We're about 14 people now, and so at this point, or at least like about the last year or so, it's we've been at a place where I think systems and processes would like slow us down versus help us out. So we've had very few of those. I think the only things that we've stuck to doing in sort of continuous regular fashion is one our one-on-ones. So with like all our reportees, so essentially whoever's working with me, I speak to them once a month about anything and nothing at all, right? So also because things have become remote and that is alien to all of us, right? So that's been a learning journey as well. So like how do you keep a pulse on how somebody's feeling when you're not seeing them every day, like sitting across, where you're not able to like share jokes with them, or just you see something funny on your phone and you can't turn to somebody and be like, ha, like look at this, right? So those kind of things, I think that's been a process, and doing those one-on-ones have definitely helped. So that is something I'm also, now that some of the people have grown into team lead roles and they have people who are working with them, I think they're also now doing one-on-ones, and I want to keep that as a as a thing, as a part of the culture. That's something everybody does. And the second thing I think is just writing certain key decisions and the reasons behind it down. So every time we've pivoted, we've sort of written down, okay, what did we do, what didn't work, what did we learn, etc. It's We don't often go back to those documents. Some of them we do, right? When I was writing the memo, I did go back and like read all of them to see if I remembered everything, if it was missing something important. But more than anything, I think one, when you sort of write things down, you have better clarity on whatever it is that you're writing things down. And second is that it's great for posterity, right? So you can always sort of go back and if somebody were to like just stand up today and be like, hey, why did we like stop doing that, that was amazing, right? So we have a document that can probably tell you that, right? And it's also sort of helped speeding up a lot of things. For example, a lot of people that I work with, for example, marketing consultants or PR consultants, or even investors, right? They want to understand who our customer is, right? And I have a document that can tell them that way better than I can sort of describe in 5 minutes, because it's just that much more, it's richer, right? It's got like photos of their homes and like detailed demographic data, and from all of my experiences of meeting customers and going to their homes and stuff like that. I used to go to customers' homes to like take measurements. So I've been to a lot of those customer homes, right? So that kind of like I cannot possibly explain all of that in like a 2-minute answer when speaking to somebody, but I can highlight a lot of that through like visual things and like other sort of notes. So we have a document like that. So I think it's just it's a couple of these things that it makes sense for, and so we want to continue doing that. I was just talking to somebody who's joining us soon, and I was very very thrilled to know that like she's completely on board with like starting to like write a document first, and even if it's just like a one pager, and then start work, because it just, I mean, it makes so much more of a difference than you can imagine it can. So yeah.
Absolutely, totally agree on that part. Like documentation of everything that you're doing as a company is so important. It might not seem like the most important thing to do right now, but if you look at the long term horizon, it's going to really help you build a healthy company over time, right? Uh, Also, you mentioned that how you're trying to adapt to the remote environment and how there are some difficulties in that.
Mhm,
But your kind of a business, like you mentioned that you went to houses
mhm,
of these ladies to take the
mhm,
measurements. So how's that thing happening right now? How are the measurements being taken? How's the delivery happening?
mhm.
How are you managing around it? Yeah.
So that was before the pandemic. So I think I visited like I don't know, 150, 200 customers or so pre-pandemic, and also met a lot in person because we did the pop-up stops, pop-up stalls, etc. But after that, it's for delivery. We have delivery partners that we work with, and for measurements we've developed a measurement kit that we can essentially send to anyone anywhere in the world, which is why even though like our physical presence is only in Bangalore, we do have customers from the other parts of India and the world. So that was a really a product of the fact that we couldn't really go to people's homes to take measurements anymore, and we had to figure out a way to get accurate measurements. So hence, we worked on the kit and we have that in place now. So yeah, that's how we get measurements.
Great. Also, this delivery part will be two-way, right? So first, a delivery partner will go and fetch the cloth and will bring it to you, and then once it's tailored and everything, and then it goes back. So it's two-way, right?
Yes, so for about 65% of our orders, they use customer fabric only. So in that case, it's a two-way thing. For the rest of the orders, we sort of provide the fabric ourselves. We have a tie-up with a bunch of fabric vendors. So in that case, it's just a single delivery.
Got it. Great. Also, while I was researching you on the internet and opening up links to your website and all, I saw that you're someone who reads a lot, and it's uh, like reads a lot. I actually mean it because you have in that blog that I read, you put down these different ways in which you read, ebooks. There are audiobooks, then there are physical books, and different apps that you use.
Mhm.
So many things going around.
Yeah.
So are you still doing it? And if yes, like how do you manage it with running a startup? And how are you managing your information diet basically these days? Is it still the same what it used to be, or has it
Oh,
changed?
it's changed. So I need to write an updated version of the article. I think biggest change has been I'm using like fewer apps, and I'm also reading lesser than I used to. Partly because of starting up, there's just like a lot more work related reading, right, or work, writing that's happening. But um, I think in general, I have sort of become more choosy about what I read. So yeah, I need to send like put an update on that. But I still I think read considerably more than the average person, but not as much as I used to. So yeah.
Great. And what are the kind of genres that you're reading? Is it mostly business reading, or are you also reading other kind of stuff?
It's a mix. So it's almost always a mix of like fiction and nonfiction. Nonfiction is typically some sort of business book. Of late, I've been gotten very interested in brand marketing, positioning, and stuff like that. So one book that I read on that recently was the 22 Laws of Marketing, which is a very sort of different sort of read. Like it's not. Um, like like a typical startup book. So there are a lot of things that were new to me in there, and it's a fairly short read, so it doesn't take very long. And sort of good mental models, right, to take away. So that's on the business side. On fiction, I'm currently reading Robots and Foundation. So I am that's like a number of books, I think 14 or something. So I'm on book 5 now. So long way to go, but it's still a mix of audiobooks and ebooks and physical books and all of that. So but definitely fewer tools, right? I think the only tool that I sort of use regularly is Readwise, because it brings up things that you've read before every day, and it connects to Rome. So like all of the notes that I make, all of the highlights that I make sort of get stored in Rome, and I can always go back and process them and access them easily. Which was something, if you've read the article, you might know that at the end I was actually asking for recommendations around highlights, because back then there wasn't a good tool that helped you do that. So that aspect has been solved. So I think I'm very comfortable in terms of like how my reading stack is, so to say.
Great, sounds amazing. Also, about these notes that you make, do you actually have a process that you go back to it on a regular basis, the notes that you made, or
Yeah.
are you like most
So
people?
I
Yeah.
just use Readwise. I just use Readwise for that. Yeah.
Okay.
So like you can set like a frequency of how often, how
Okay.
many times you want to see something, etc. So
Okay.
I really like that product. It's one of my best favorite products.
Great, great, great. Since you're a woman entrepreneur and we don't have many women entrepreneurs around, so I would love to ask you this question: if a woman or a girl is watching this episode today, what would you tell her? What would be your advice to her, or anything that she should keep in mind while doing business?
Oh, man. Okay, I haven't thought of this, but I think just like don't give up. Like, I mean, there are a lot of sort of I mean, depending on how privileged versus not privileged you are, that we're going to have different sort of issues, and like often I think we're just sort of, there are these boxes that we're put into that like, oh, these this thing like only like boys do. Like I think that has happened in certain sectors, right? Like with, I think developers also, like I am looking to hire a lot more female developers, and if you're a female developer, please email me. I'm amna@getbinks.com. I'm just going to make the plug here, sorry. But right, I mean, there just are like fewer entrepreneurs and developers, let's say, who are women, right? And I think it's a like a larger systemic problem, and like a lot of things need to be done there. But I think reach out to other women, like every sort of women's group or WhatsApp female group, etc., right? A bunch of them, everybody is extremely helpful, right? So reach out, ask questions, right? And I think that's sort of the best way to go at it. I don't know if this is very like useful advice, but um, I think today I have a lot, or while there are fewer entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs in general, I still have a lot of them to look up to and reach out, right? And this is only going to get better from here. So yeah, just feel free to reach out to me or anyone else, and we'll try to help you the best way we can.
Absolutely. That's great advice that you should never give up and try to plug yourself into the women startup ecosystem, because women help each other out, and there can be so much help that you can extract from people who've already made it. Not just women, but also
Yeah,
uh, male entrepreneurs are also very helpful in that regard,
yeah.
right? Talking about we are coming towards the end of this episode, and the last section that we have in an episode is the rapid fire round.
Hmm.
So how it will work is I'll give you two options, and you just have to pick one really quickly.
Okay,
Okay.
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 No
Let's
worries.
start. First one, uh, Twitter or LinkedIn.
Twitter, 100%.
Okay. Physical books or ebooks.
Physical books.
Okay. Ambiguity or certainty.
What is this question? Is it like a trick question? I don't know how to answer this.
Not a trick question. Just pick one, right?
Cert-
Which is better?
ambiguity, I guess. Yeah,
Ambiguity. Cool. Talking or writing.
writing, any day. Yeah,
Writing. Cool. Capital or people.
people. Yeah.
Great. So those were the five rapid fire questions I had for you. And just to follow up on that one, you said physical books,
Mhm.
but in physical books, read wise is not going to work,
Oh,
right?
it works actually. So you can take a photograph,
It works.
and
Yeah.
it uses like OCR to figure out what it is that you've marked. So what I do now
Okay.
is I just keep like a pencil along, and I just
Hmm.
mark the stuff that I want to save later. And then once I'm done
Okay.
reading the book, I just go and like take photographs. So it's a little bit of work for sure,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you have to sort of be ready to do that, or like you don't end up putting it, but you still have your highlights in the book, so you can always go back and refer to them. But readwise works with everything. Like it works with podcasts, it works with
Uh-huh.
articles, with name it, just name it. They have so many integrations, and I'm a big fan, big fan.
Great, absolutely. Give Readwise a shot, everyone, like I'm going to do. And now is officially the time for you to make your plugs. Any plugs that you want, hiring plugs, your own social media plugs, product plugs, any plugs that you want. This is your time.
Yes, so we are hiring for all sorts of roles. I will be putting out a jobs page shortly on Twitter and LinkedIn and all of the web. So please, if you're interested in what we're doing, excited about the space, um, please reach out. I'm amna@getbinks.com. I'm also on Twitter. I think you can sort of put it in the YouTube description thing. So, but it's underscore Amna Khan, because at Amna Khan
Absolutely.
is owned by somebody else, like a child or something, and she hasn't tweeted in 7 years, but I still don't have my account. So, if you can help me get my handle on Twitter, please reach out. Those are all the plugs I have. But yeah,
Great, great, great. I can totally understand the pain of not having your own handle, which you really want. But cool. I hope you get it. I'm going to drop her a ping or him or whoever that is, just to give that account to you. Maybe you can exchange some entrepreneurship tips with that person in exchange.
she looks like a
Cool.
child. So, but yeah, sure, happy to do that.
Anything, right? Anything for that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, I will make sure to put all these links that Amna just mentioned in the description below, in the YouTube description, and if you're listening on Spotify, in the Spotify description as well. Amna, thank you for doing this with us. Thank you for giving us insights into your amazing investor memo. And I absolutely love what you're building with Binks and the problem that you're solving, and how thoughtfully you're solving it. Thank you for appearing on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you so much. It was really, really nice to be here.